At 6:32 p.m. on a humid evening in Olive Branch, Texas, a 911 call came through. The woman's voice trembled with panic as she said, "Please, my friend fell down the stairs. She's not moving. Oh God, there's blood. Send someone quick. Address, 24 Clover Street." Within minutes, a patrol car was dispatched, and 8 minutes later, officers arrived at the scene. Paramedics were close behind. They entered the small 2-story home and immediately saw a woman lying at the bottom of a polished staircase, her head twisted at an unnatural angle, blood pooling beneath her from a deep gash at the back of her skull. The victim was identified as LaShonda Pittman, a 45-year-old school administrator from Memphis. In the living room nearby, her boyfriend, Jamal Wainwright, sat hunched forward on the couch, his head in his hands. He wore only sweatpants hastily thrown on, one pocket inside out, his body trembling. When paramedics pronounced LaShonda dead, Jamal gave only the smallest nod, never lifting his eyes. By 7:15 p.m., Detective Tyrone Devontae, a seasoned investigator with the Olive Branch Police Department, arrived. Yellow tapes stretched across the yard. Crime scene photographers were already at work, and the house had a hollow silence to it, broken only by the whir of the camera shutters. Devontae's trained eyes scanned the room. Something was off. A vase lay shattered in the corner. Couch cushions were strewn across the floor, and a picture frame had fallen face down from the wall. This didn't look like the tidy scene of an accidental fall. He crouched near LaShonda's body, noticing how her arms were bent awkwardly by her sides, not flung forward as if she had tried to break or fall. Halfway up the staircase, a sandal rested on the landing. A broken fingernail was wedged into the wooden banister. None of it matched the neat story of a sudden slip. Jamal was seated under the watch of 2 patrol officers when Devontae approached him. Thin, clean-cut, with a short beard and wide, frightened eyes, he looked far younger than his 31 years. Devontae kept his voice even as he said, "Mr. Wainwright, I'll need to ask you some questions." Jamal's voice was quiet, shaking. "When can you take her away? She doesn't deserve to just lie there like that." Devontae leaned forward. "Soon. But first, tell me what happened." Jamal rubbed his face with both hands. "We met online 3 months ago. She lived in Memphis. I'm here. This was her first time at my place. We had dinner, a little wine, watched a movie. Everything was fine. Around 6, I went upstairs to shower. I heard a crash, then a scream. When I came out, I found her like that." Devontae asked if anyone else had been in the house. Jamal shook his head. "No one else, just them." When Devontae pressed about the broken vase and scattered cushions, Jamal hesitated. "We had a little argument before. Nothing big. I told her I was busy with work. Maybe she shouldn't stay too long. She didn't like that. But I swear I didn't touch her." His answers came quickly but felt too thin, rehearsed. When a medical examiner, Dr. Amelia Wong, arrived, she studied LaShonda's body with sharp precision. Cause of death appears to be fractured cervical vertebrae and massive head trauma, she said, but then pointed out the details that unsettled her. Dark bruises on LaShonda's wrists shaped like fingers gripping too hard, an abrasion on her cheek that looked like a slap rather than an accident, the straps of her robe torn rather than untied. Beneath her nails was a trace of skin tissue, as if she had clawed at someone. "She fought back," Wong said flatly. Outside, a young neighbor stood anxiously on the sidewalk. Cassidy Jackson, a 28-year-old schoolteacher, had been tending her garden when she heard the commotion. Devontae asked what she'd heard, and Cassidy swallowed nervously before answering. The windows were open. At first they were laughing, playful. Then it turned. They started arguing, louder and louder. I heard Jamal yelling. Then LaShonda started laughing, this cruel, taunting laugh. She said something about a baby or a little one. I couldn't hear every word, but she mocked him. After that, she shouted something, and then I heard a crash and silence. Her words aligned perfectly with the signs of a fight inside. Back inside, a crime scene tech handed Devontae LaShonda's phone in a clear evidence bag. The last text had been sent less than an hour before her death. Scrolling through the messages, Devontae read a string of cruel remarks to LaShonda's friends. "Girl, I'm finally seeing my man tonight. He's so young, so strong. I think this is the real deal. But later the tone shifted. Oh my God, you won't believe this. He's packing nothing. Like a child. I couldn't stop laughing. Another text read, I even snapped a pic for you. Wait till you see this kindergarten-size thing. Devontae's lips pressed into a thin line. The cruel taunts fit perfectly with Cassidy's account of mocking laughter, and the word baby shouted across the house. The following day, Devontae tracked down Leroy Tompkins, Jamal's longtime friend. In the corner booth of a diner, Leroy lowered his voice. Jamal's always been sensitive about, He got teased for it in school. In college, he even got in a fight after someone made a joke. Normally he's calm, but if somebody pushes that button, he loses it. I'm not saying he'd kill someone, detective. He's the kind of guy who carries spiders outside instead of squashing them. But if she mocked him bad enough, Leroy didn't finish the thought, but the implication hung heavy in the air. The autopsy confirmed Devontae's suspicions. LaShonda bore bruises on her wrists and arms consistent with being held down. A fresh contusion marked her cheek, inflicted not long before death. There were older bruises on her thighs and shoulders that hinted at previous rough encounters. She had engaged in sexual activity within hours of her death. And under her nails were skin fragments, DNA that would soon confirm she fought her attacker. Dr. Wong was clear. She didn't just fall. She was assaulted, then pushed. When Devontae returned to confront Jamal, the man sat across the interrogation table with hollow eyes. Devontae laid out the evidence. The neighbor hearing LaShonda's cruel laughter, the text messages mocking him, the bruises, the DNA under her nails. This wasn't an accident, Devontae said calmly. You grabbed her. She scratched you. You pushed her. And that push killed her. Jamal's fists clenched on the table as his composure cracked. She wouldn't stop, he whispered. She laughed at me, called me names. I just wanted her to shut up. I grabbed her arm. She fought back, and I pushed. She fell. His voice broke into a sob. I didn't mean for her to die. Devontae's face remained impassive. Intentional or not, Mr. Wainwright, that shove ended her life. That makes it homicide. As Jamal was led away in handcuffs, neighbors gathered in hushed clusters on the street. Cassidy Jackson stood on her porch, arms folded tightly against her chest, tears streaking her cheeks as she replayed the laughter and sudden silence she had heard the night before. Now it all made sense. Inside the house, Devontae closed his notebook, piecing together the chain of events. LaShonda had mocked Jamal during their first intimate encounter, ridiculed him in text to friends, and even sent pictures. The humiliation festered into rage. The argument escalated. Her laughter, sharp and merciless, had cut too deep, and in a moment of anger, Jamal shoved her. She fell, struck her head, and never rose again. It hadn't been planned, but it wasn't an accident either. It was a collision of cruelty and pride, ending with one woman dead and one man's life ruined. Another life destroyed by a single moment that could never be undone.